מסכת ברכות, פרק ה', Mishnah ה', 5th chapter, 5th Mishnah, in מסכת ברכות. משנה זו מוסיפה ללמדנו, this Mishnah continues to teach us, שיהיה כל אדם זהיר בתפילתו שלו איתו, that a person has to be very careful in his davening, so he's not going to make a mistake. ומכל שכן שליח ציבור, and how much more so, that goes for the chazan, who is representing the community. שכן טעות בתפילה סימן רע הוא. We're going to see that a mistake in davening, it's a bad omen. Let's start. המתפלל תפילת 18, somebody who davens the 18 prayer, the Amida prayer, וטעה בתפילתו, and he made a mistake in his davening. סימן רע לו. This is a bad omen for him. שתפילתו אינה נשמעת. What does it mean? It means that God is not listening to his davening, to his prayer. Therefore, הוא צריך לפשש מעשיו, and therefore he needs to look deeply into himself and into his acts. ואם שליח ציבור הוא, this is when he is praying on his own. What about if he is representing the community, he's the chazan, וטעה בתפילתו, and he made a mistake in his davening, in his prayer, סימן רע לשלוחיו. This is a bad omen to those who sent him, to the ones he represent. לציבור שעשו שליחים, to the congregation that made him into a messenger. Because we have a rule that says, מפני ששלוחו של אדם כמותו. It is the messenger is a replacement. It is just like the person himself. והרי זה כאילו כל הציבור טעה. And it is as if the entire congregation made a mistake. אמרו עליו על רבי חנינא בן דוסה. They said on him, which means there's a story about Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, Rabbi Hanina, the son of Dosa. שהיה צדיק וחסיד. He was a righteous person, he was a chassid. ורבים היו באים אליו בעת צרתם. And many people used to come to him at a time of need, שיתפלל עליהם, so that he could pray for them. שהיה מתפלל על החולים, because he was known to pray for sick people. ומבקש עליהם רחמים, and he used to ask mercy from God upon them. שישלח להם השם רפואה, that God is going to send to them complete recovery. ואומר, and he used to say, והיה אומר לאחר תפילתו, and he used to say immediately after his prayer, זה חי וזה מת. Says this one is going to be alive, living, and this guy is going to die. חולה זה יבריא, this sick person is going to become healed, ויחיה, and is going to live for a long time, וחולה זה ימות, and this sick person unfortunately is going to die. אמרו לו, they asked him, this is the ask Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, מניין אתה יודע, from how do you know, what are you God, how do you know this, להבחין בין חולה לחולה, to distinguish between one sick person and between another sick person. אמר להם, so he told them, no, I'm not God, but I have a way to know. What's the way? אם שגורה תפילתי בפי, if my davening goes well in my mouth, it flows, the prayer flows, אם תפילתי שנתפלל לחולה נאמרת במהירות ובשטף, if the davening that I say on the sick person just comes out fast and consistent, ללא כל מכשול ועיכוב, without any hesitation, יודע אני שהוא מקובל, I know that God received this prayer, שהחולה מקובל, that the sick person is received by God, כלומר שתפילתי שהתפללתי עליו נתקבלה, that the prayer that I uttered from my mouth was received by God, ואם לאו, and if it's hard for me to talk, שאין תפילתי שגורה בפי, that I get stuck over here, that I said the wrong word over there, that I have to repeat myself, for example, יודע אני שהוא מטורף, then I know that unfortunately the person is not going to be well, שנגזר דינו של החולה למות, that it was decreed that this person is going to die. מטורף, the word מטורף over here, מלשון טרוף טורף. It says on Yosef that the brother said about Yosef when he came to his father that he was devoured, he was killed by a wild animal. So it uses the same word. ויש מפרשים שלשון שהוא מקובל, שהוא מטורף. Some say that it is the words מטורף means something else. What does it mean? אינו מתכוון לחולה. We're not talking about the person is going to be devoured. אלא כלשון סתמי שמנסה בקלות העניין, שהוא מקובל. It means that it is received. The word מטורף, received. כלומר, שעניין אותו תפילה מקובל. It means that the matter of that davening was received by God. וכן, כשהוא מטורף, שהעניין מטורף, and when it is not received, when it is מטורף, כלומר שהתפילה מטורף, התפילה מקובלת. It means that it is not received. בגמרא מסופר עוד, in the Gemara, so that's another definition for the word מטורף, received or not received. מטורף means not received by God, not necessarily devoured like the first explanation. There's another story in the Gemara. מעשה ברבי חנינא בן דוסה, there's a story about רבי חנינא בן דוסה, שהלך ללמוד תורה אצל רבן יוחנן בן זכאי. That רבי חנינא בן דוסה went to learn Torah by רבן יוחנן בן זכאי. וחלה בנו של רבן יוחנן בן זכאי. And the son of רבן יוחנן בן זכאי became very, very sick. אמר לו, so רבן יוחנן בן זכאי said to רבי חנינא בן דוסה, חנינא בני, he said, חנינא, my son, בקש עליו רחמים ויחיה. He says, please ask mercy for my son, so he should live. So it says, הניח ראשו בין ברכיו. Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa put his head between his knees, which means he cried, וביקש עליו רחמים, and he asked mercy upon him. וחיה, and that's what happened, he lived. אמר רבן יוחנן בן זכאי, so רבן יוחנן בן זכאי said a statement, אלמלא הטיח בן זכאי את ראשו בין ברכיו, it says, without the davening, without the prayer, without putting רבן his head between the כל היום כולו, his entire day, לא היו משגיחים עליו. God wouldn't have listened to it. And then the wife of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai got very confused. So she asked Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, אמרה לו אשתו. So the wife of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked him, וכי חנינא גדול ממך? He asked, Rabbi says, if Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa came to learn by you, but Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, obviously you're the teacher and he's the student. So what are you saying? That he's greater than you? What, you didn't cry the whole day? You also cried the whole day. How do you know it was because of him and not because of you? Amar la alav, he says, no, you're right. I'm greater than him. I know that for sure. Amar la alav. But you know what the difference between us is? Ela hu dome ke'eved lifnei hamelech. But he is like a servant in front of a king. And what does it mean, a servant in front of the king? Even a servant, though he's not a minister, he's not one of the high levels in front of the king. But you know what? He spends all his time. Servant have a special kind of bond that the finance minister or the war minister doesn't have with the king, because the servant is all the time with the king. So he tells her, it's me, I'm the master, I'm the minister. He is like the servant. Ela hu dome ke'eved lifnei hamelech, but he is like a servant in front of the king. Which what? הרגיל אצלו כל שעה, because the servant is always by the king. הוא מבקש ממנו משאלותיו, and whenever he needs something from the king, he immediately goes and asks from the king, and there's a relationship between the two. ואני דומה, and what am I in front of God, in front of the king? כשר לפני המלך. I am just like a minister in front of a king. שאינו רגיל לבוא לפניו. I don't see the king every day. I don't see the king when the king needs me. Once a week, once a day, once in every 2 weeks, whatever the king needs. We have a meeting and I tell him whatever needs to be done. But so with the king, המלך מדקדק עמו ביותר. With the minister, the king is more strict than he would be with his servant.